These two cartridges in front of me are marketed by Winchester as equal. We've got the 300 Win Mag on the left and the 300 WSM on the right. But in this video, I'm going to show you why marketing is lying and at best exaggerating by a lot. When put on equal playing fields, the 300 WSM can never match a 300 Win Mag. Now let's talk about the good attributes of the 300 WSM. I will concede that compared to other magnums, it is relatively efficient, and you're going to get pretty darn good performance with how much powder you're putting in and the velocity you are going to get. It's a very inherently accurate cartridge. Now, one of the big downsides of the 300 WSM, and you're not seeing it here because I've loaded this long, is the SAMI length restrictions, basically. 2.850, you're stuffing any heavy 30 caliber bullet really far into the case, which is not ideal. Now, this one's a 210 grain burger, and I've obviously loaded it long, like it should be. Honestly, it probably should be loaded a little longer, but that's kind of the weakness of the 300 WSM is its magazine length and the SAMI cartridge overall length. It's just way too short. Now, the 300 Win Mag, honestly, its biggest weakness, well, it kind of has the same one. Winchester back in 1963 produced the 300 Win Mag, but they wanted to keep it in a 30-06 length action, so not a magnum action, so they restricted this to 3.340. So any of the heavy 30 caliber bullets are going to be, just like 300 WSM, stuffed into the case. So that is the big downside of 300 Winchester Magnum. As far as these two comparing each other, look, the 300 Win Mag has a water grain capacity roughly around 90 grains, while the 300 WSM has around 80 grains. So how on earth does a 300 WSM get the same velocity as a 300 Win Mag? Well, 300 WSM is loaded hot, and the 300 Win Mag is not. That's how. Now, the 300 Win Mag, with it being a 1963 cartridge, you'll find a lot of factory ammo this is just watered down so much in factory ammo. The most common bullet you're going to find in 300 Win Mag is a 180 grain, and most of the factory ammo offerings have you going 2960. Whoop, whoop. That is super watered down, and I'll show you what you can get with hand loads with a proper barrel length, easily over 3,100 feet per second with a 180 grain. Okay, so why is all of the 300 Win Mag ammo watered down? I don't know. Now, some of it isn't. There are some few exceptions where you can get them into the 3,100 feet per second, but the vast majority are 2960. Then we get to the 300 WSM, and most of its ammo is loaded at the exact same velocity. Some of it's even faster than the 300 Win Mag. I assume Winchester is just pushing this up a little more, taking advantage, and going closer to 65,000 PSI than they do with the 300 Win Mag. So if you see factory ammo where this is just as fast or faster, it's solely due to the 300 Win Mag being watered down. Now let me concede one thing. The 300 WSM comes really close to matching 300 Win Mag with lighter bullets and a shorter barrel. So what do I mean? If you put a 300 Winchester Magnum in a shorter barrel, let's say 24 inches or shorter, the 300 WSM really comes close. And what kind of light bullets? I'd say 165 and below. The 300 WSM is just more efficient with it. And honestly, with 300 Win Mag, you should be shooting 180 grain and heavier to really take full advantage of this case capacity. Okay, we just pulled up Gordon's reloading tool. We'll start with the 300 WSM first. So there it is. Again, we're restricted to that cartridge length at basically 2.85, 81.5 grains of water capacity. It really depends on who makes it in the case. You're seeing around 80 to 81. 24-inch barrel. We're going to use a 165 AccuBond. So this is going to be kind of the exception that everyone thinks the 300 WSM can match a 300 Win Mag. This is where it actually does get kind of close. So with Reloader 17, I know that's not really available, but we can basically get 3170 feet per second at 65,000 psi with a 24-inch barrel. So pretty good performance. Now let's go to the 300 Win Mag, and it has 9 to 10 grain more water capacity than a 300 WSM. And we are going to be stuck with our SAMI length of 3.340 and 24-inch barrel. Not ideal. Same bullet, exact same powder. And at most, you're probably going to get 3205 at 65,000 psi. So you're going to see 25 to 30 feet per second faster in a 300 Win Mag. So yeah, it's really close with the lighter bullets and that shorter 24-inch barrel. All right, now let's go up in grain of weight. So let's say we go up to a partition or an AccuBond to 180 grain. And let's be real here, guys. Some of you are going to be mad that I point this out, but it's just what it is. Most 300 WSMs have a 24-inch barrel or shorter. The vast majority of 300 Win Mags have a 26-inch barrel. So we are going to look at realistically how much faster a 300 Winchester Magnum is, even with the 180 grains. 300 WSM loaded with Reloader 19. I'm giving it the best powder it can have for this bullet weight. We are topping out at, with a 24-inch barrel, 3,035 feet per second with a 180 grain. Now when we load the 300 Win Mag with that same 180 grain bullet, then we use N560 because of this 26-inch barrel, the powder will fully burn. And now we are getting 3165 feet per second as a max velocity in the 300 Win Mag. So now you are seeing quite a bit of difference. 3165 versus 3035. Now let's go up in weight to a 200 grain AccuBond. This is one of my personal favorite hunting bullets for any 300 caliber Magnum. They both do really well with 300 WSM and 300 Win Mag, but you're going to get a bit more in the 300 Win Mag, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, we got the good old 300 Win Mag pulled up, right? We've now changed it to the 200 grain AccuBond 26-inch barrel again. The powder I'm choosing is N560. And as you can see, just below 65,000 psi, we're basically at 3,015 feet per second max with a 200 grain bullet. Very good. Let's go to the 300 WSM using a 24-inch barrel, and then the 200 grain AccuBond, and we're basically topping out at 2,885 feet per second. Now I know, put a 26-inch barrel on it, and it'll be just the same. Well, let's see. Not quite. You know, the 300 Win Mag is still going to have 75 feet per second advantage. But just remember, almost no hunting rifles in 300 WSM have a 26-inch barrel. So you're going to be stuck a little below 2,900 feet per second as a max. Now I know the 300 WSM fans are already typing, Reloader Weatherby, this video is dumb. See, you just proved the 300 WSM is almost within a 300 Win Mag with the same barrel length. 70 feet per second. Yeah, kind of. But remember, guys, who has a 26-inch barrel 300 WSM? Not many. Winchester has always advertised this, and then everyone on the internet says 300 WSM matches 300 Win Mag. Well, no, it doesn't.